103.8.
Hello there, welcome back to the show. It is starting up with Virtuzone with me, Georgia Tolley, today. But only today. Normally Tom Urquhart will be keeping you company on the airwaves for this hour. But we've allowed him a few days off in anticipation of his holiday, in anticipation of his birthday. Are we allowed to say that it's his 50th? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, it happened anyway, didn't it? Happy birthday, Tom. I have got a studio full of fascinating gentlemen. First up, of course, we've got the amazing Paul here in the studio with us from Virtuzone.
Welcome back. It's good to have you back with us, Georgia.
Do you know, it's an absolute pleasure, Paul Bryson.
It's been a
Lovely.
couple of years, right?
It has been a couple of years. Yeah, I'm having to sort of feel my way back into the programme again, slightly. But as ever, we are discussing one of a really fascinating topic on Virtuzone, on starting up today. Because if you ask any business owner, they will tell you that one of the hardest things about running a company is managing the employees. So I'm asking a question to everyone listening, all the bosses out there. How do you keep your staff happy? I'd love to hear from you. 4001 is the text, or WhatsApp me on 04871 5500. A consulting firm called Mercer, they had a recent report that found that UAE employers are increasing housing allowances by about 4% to help staff cope with rising rent. Now, that would keep me happy if it was happening for me, but it's not. But it is one really great way to look after them. Let's explore the other ways. Paul, first of all, I'm going to come to you as my co-host. How do you keep your staff happy at Virtuzone then?
Oh, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Bit pointed to start off with.
I'm a big fan of developing people and retaining people. I don't think we don't have a high rate of staff turnover, and it's a complex mix, right? All the ingredients have to be right, from the working environment, how the office looks, how the office feels. That's become important to people. Can they see out a window? Is there greenery in the office, right? Things that I might not have thought of 20 years ago when I started working. So between how well paid they are, about having employee engagement programs, we have internal recognition programs, we have a fantastic social scene. So, but I was talking to someone about it the other day, and some of our better performers have been there for 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, 10 years, 9. I'm counting them up, right? So we must be doing something right. That people are hanging around
you must.
Of the time.
Because my understanding is that there's a high rate of staff turnover in the UAE. So if you've got people sticking with you, then that is the biggest compliment. You must be getting it right. Okay, we have three amazing guests in the studio who are going to offer very different perspectives on this topic, which I'm really pleased about. First up, I'm going to work my way around. We've got Adel Ghazzawi. He is the co-owner of Cove Beach. So, of course, Adel has extensive experience in corporate services, in industries such as infrastructure, construction, real estate and artificial intelligence. I say, of course, I wouldn't necessarily connect the two, to be honest, Adel. I thought we were going to just mainly talk to you about hospitality, but clearly you've got a lot of experience in a lot of different fields.
Yeah, I mean, we have 50 companies in different fields, and across the board, we have over 20,000 employees.
Wow.
But in Cove Beach, we have about 180 people. I think maybe more than 50% have been with me for 12 years.
Okay, so you've got a big workforce. My other guest is Sebastian Bedu, who's the general manager of International SOS. Now, they're a global health and security services firm. So to put that in simple terms, they basically help companies protect their employees, whether they're traveling or, based overseas or working in risky environments. Sebastian, how many staff members do you have?
Globally, 11,000.
Whoa, really?
Yes. Scattered all continents, 27 assistance centers supporting 9,000 clients, so it's not a small feat. And we take pride in supporting the operations of our clients everywhere they go.
Okay, and what's so interesting for you is that you're going to see this from both sides of the coin, because you've got a big staff crew, like 11,000, and then plus you're looking after employees, so you're going to hear it from the other point of view of what your clients' staff want as well. So that's interesting.
And what you just said is so right. Take care of your employees so they take care of your clients is quite a critical aspect.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, we're going to tease into this in more detail, but I just want to introduce our third guest as well, Shane Phillips. He is the CEO of the Phillips Group. They are an executive search company, so Shane helps big companies find the right bosses. Really interesting because you're right at that C-suite level, aren't you, Shane?
And board. So we help build the boards and place CEOs as well. So
That's what we do.
Brilliant. Okay, so we've got three great guys with perspectives on every sort of different level of employee. You know, whether you're coming in as a waitress or a waiter, for example, all the way to security services, and then that C-suite and board level. Okay, keeping your employees satisfied and fulfilled. It is really, really tricky. Adel, I'm going to start with you. What makes people stay, in your opinion?
I think it's a combination of things. I think first of all, they see that we invest in them. You know, we're constantly training them. We're constantly bringing in resources from around the world to really help them evolve. We sit down, you know, every quarter we sit down and we have a team that sits with our staff that basically says, what are your goals? Where do you want to grow? You know, we try and help them set goals because a lot of these people aren't sure what their goals look like. Once you help them set goals, and then we help them work backwards from there. So we're pretty much telling them what they need to do to achieve the goals that we've helped them kind of establish. And then on that journey of you know, kind of progressing in those goals, they know that we're there for them. It's good times, it's bad times. We have a good month, we have a bad month, we have a good quarter. It doesn't matter. We're always going to be there. I mean, we have constant examples of people that know that if they need anything, they're going to show up and we're going to show up for them. I mean, when COVID, for example, hit, I didn't fire a single person.
Really?
Right? Not one person. We kept them. You know, we took a bunch of our profit that we had made. We opened a separate account and we kind of allocated that to them and their families. We put them in their housing. Every day we had food delivered to them. We weren't paying them salaries, but they were getting everything else they needed. And so they know that when times are bad, they can depend on us. And that makes a big difference.
I mean, that is amazing. And of course, in when times are tough, that is exactly, Sebastian, when your company is called upon. Because, I mean, I remember the last time we spoke on the radio, it was because you were evacuating people from Sudan because the civil war had broken out there. I mean, that's the ultimate, knowing that your company's got your back, isn't it?
Indeed. No organization, no region is immune to crisis, and whether it's geopolitical tensions, conflicts, as you mentioned, extreme weather.
Yeah, we saw it here, didn't we?
Crisis impact everybody around us. And I trust this is when your teams turn out to leaders for guidance and clarity, and when empathy becomes more than a soft skills, it turns into strategic asset, because being able to articulate a message of clarity for everybody to push in the same direction supports them give the best performance for the sake of themselves, but also for the sake of the clients they support. And you've said it, right? Supporting people, just like in times of COVID, for us, making sure that well-being is not an option. It becomes mandatory, right? Because in times of crisis, you want to make sure that the people that run your operations, that are part of your teams, not just get through, but emerge stronger.
Shane, you recruit people who need to show these types of values. From your perspective, do you think CEOs, do you think these senior figures understand the need to protect their employees come what may?
Well, I think it's a very unique situation where you're in the type of volatility that Sebastian deals with. So, but I think here in the Middle East, it's very common to have assets in Iraq, exposure in Syria. Of course, many people had exposure in Jordan. So, but these are people who've grown up in this region, and so they instinctively know how to deal with that type of volatility, and you know, I think that's one of the strengths where this region is tactically very strong. And it's kind of, it also boils down to, you know, your identity. So it's a lot of these people won't leave the region because they'll say, you know, hey, I'm a Middle Eastern trader, or, you know, my grandfather was here, you know, we were here during the revolution in X country and Y country, and so they have a long generational history of dealing with conflict, so they're not necessarily going to shy away from it, although they are cognizant and concerned about the safety of their staff, of course.
I mean, of course, when we went through that sort of COVID period that Adel explained there, do you think that changed people's perspectives on the role of their employer? Because all of a sudden, for example, employers were having to pay for people's accommodation and food when there was no work, like people couldn't go to work. Do you think COVID has changed people's expectations from their managers?
Well, I think one of the great marks of leadership is, who was doing business after COVID, and who was really, closing shop. And one of the great roles of leadership, my father, I want to start my first business. I was like, hey, Dad, this is how much money we made in the first week. And he's like, well, what are you doing to make sure your people don't quit under any condition? I really didn't understand what he meant until, you see something like COVID, and some leaders had, they would tell their staff like, hey, we're going to have to cut salaries, and the staff would say, okay, well, we're going to file a lawsuit against you, and it would crumble. And you'd have other leaders to say, look, I most likely won't have money to pay salaries next month. And they're like, it's okay, boss, we're going to work for free. We're going to do whatever it takes to take this organization through to the next level. And, that's the difference in leadership. And are you able to get that kind of commitment, accountability from your staff to the organization?
Okay, I mean, absolutely fascinating conversation. We've already done a deep dive into when we're in the most sticky situation. So I think after the break, we might come back to your day-to-day reality, what it is. Is it culture, or is it perks? Is it salary, or is it, I don't know, is it fun days out? What is it that actually retains employees and keeps people happy? We're going to get up next practical everyday tips from our fantastic guests on how to ensure your employees feel heard and seen in the workplace.
This is Starting Up on Dubai Eye 103.8.
Sponsored by Virtuzone. Be your own boss.
Welcome back to Virtuzone. We're still here. We're talking about how best to take care of your people. So this is a really obviously hot topic for all the business owners and bosses out there who, I don't know, might want to take a page out of our guest book. We've got 3 eminent guests in the studio. I also have my co-host here, Paul Bryson, Managing Director of Virtuzone, himself a manager of people. And then we've got Sebastian Bedu, who's the General Manager of International SOS, Shane Phillips, the CEO of the Phillips Group, and Adel Ghazzawi, who's the co-owner of Cove Beach.
Yeah, I think let me jump in here. We're having great conversations there off air, so let's bring them on here. We're talking about how difficult it is managing people. The first thing, when I was, let's say, working as a standalone employee myself as part of a team, and then when I started managing people, I found it difficult, because it was easier just to run myself than run other people, because not everybody has the same values as you. And now we have, in this country, we have cross-generational and cross-cultural differences to think about, when we're dealing with people. So I was just wondering with you guys, what's the hardest part you find? I mean, how many direct reports do you have? I mean, presumably you've structured it in a way you don't have too many, but how many direct reports, and how hard do you find it to manage people? Maybe start with Adel.
I mean, I think it's definitely not an easy task, because, like, for me in my business, sometimes one of the biggest problems is people sometimes want to try a little bit too hard. So you have a guy that's responsible for running one specific division, and then he or she sees that they could do more, and they want to kind of fast track that process. But because they're not equipped, they end up dropping the ball on what they were brought in the first place to do. And so trying to get people to stay streamlined and focused on what they do is probably one of the most difficult things that we have to deal with, honestly.
A brilliant point, because we have a couple of fantastic high-performing employees who might start trying to move into shape the marketing arm of the business, move into shape the finance team and how they work. And we want to say, just please focus on that. You're amazing at it. You don't need to do that
and
right
and
now,
the problem is when they start doing that and they veer off to try and solve somebody else's problem, because, by the way, they have the right skills, like in the sense that they're hungry, they want to push forward, they want to show their leaders that, I want to grow within this organization.
I can do this job before I do it.
But what they don't see is they're dropping the ball on what they were brought there to do in the first place. And that, to me, is one of the biggest and most difficult things I deal with in our business, is trying to keep people in their lane, but also giving them the opportunity to step out, in a reasonable way to kind of help with their growth.
And do you get, and if I pass over to say Sebastian, do you get any? I get a lot of joy out of seeing people grow and develop under us into different roles. That gives me great satisfaction. Presumably the same for both you guys as well.
I find it fascinating, actually. I believe you only become a leader the day you have been able to grow another leader. And that succession plan that you put in place, the developments that you invest in the people that you lead, will pay tenfold for the benefit of the structure. And that's such a great point. Being able to continuously invest in the team you manage, so you ultimately become at their service for the sake of their own future career, is, to me, the best part of my job.
Yeah, well, I think the hardest part for people to comprehend is that when you're in that management role, your success is through others, not through yourself. And that's sometimes can be the hardest part in your minds. Perhaps, you would agree with that. The hardest part is to change that shift and not to be afraid to bring in people that you think, God, they could be better than me.
Can I say something about, I think this is critical, right? If you are the smartest guy in the room every time, you're in the wrong place.
That's fascinating. You see, I come from a position of I basically don't manage people, so I'm very much an employee in this environment. So hearing you guys talk about the best way to manage people and not wanting, people to sort of step out too quickly from their role is really interesting. Like, it really chimes with me. I'm always trying to do too much, for example. Interesting to hear from Shane as well, because of course you hire people who will then go on to hire people. What do you think is the hardest thing?
I think the hardest thing is getting managers who are going to let go of their ego, that they can actually be self-critical enough and to step back, where most managers are so concerned with the message they're sending. They're so concerned with being understood that they don't understand. And, taking a step back, as they say, it's much better to understand than be understood, to love than to be loved. In order to be forgiven, you have to forgive. And so to stand back, you take a simple thing like a performance management. They're so, hey, this is what you're doing right. This is what you're doing right, wrong. Hey, how are we doing? How am I doing as a manager? Are you happy here? Do you feel engaged here? And, the small little changes, but they can't do it because the ego's too big, they're too proud, right? And so I think that's been one of the biggest challenges, is getting that realistic self-image, understanding that, hey, you know what? They're making mistakes. You as a manager also make mistakes, and listen to them, understand what the problem is. And the last piece is they're missing the boat, really, is that you're so caught up on what the technical skills are. But you see, like, if you don't want to be a media person, there's no point in me investing in media training for you, right? So who are you? What's your vision? Who are you? Who do you want to become? And, does that fit with the vision of the organization? So many times you see big organizations putting huge leadership development plan investments. Like, for example, you have bankers, you have Emirati or local bankers and they actually feel banking is haram. And so they don't even want to be bankers. And so after your leadership development program is given, 50% attrition rate. And I said, well, did anyone ask him or her, do they want to be a banker? But you can't, because your ego's too big. We're ex-bank. Everybody wants to work for us. And it's not true. Top performers don't want to switch brands. Not everybody wants to work for you. Maybe, you have a lot of people applying, but they're not the right people. But your ego's too big. So, that's how we see it.
I like that. Yeah. That's interesting.
No, it's totally true. And I would actually say that it took me a while to really understand that it's okay for me to hire people who I think could end up be better than me, who can outshine me. But not, I guess some people probably learn that early, some people learn that late. I'd love to know, like, perhaps do you guys hire people thinking, this guy could succeed me?
Okay, so we're going to hold that thought because we've got our news headlines next, and I want to know so we'll find out. Do you know what we've just done? We've just given everyone a bit of a chance to think about their answer. So that's what we'll come back to in just a few minutes' time. We have got our news headlines now. You are listening to Starting Up with me, Georgia Tolley, my co-host Paul Bryson, Managing Director of Virtuzone. We've got three fantastic guys in the studio, and we are discussing about what it is that keeps employees happy. Feel free to text in. I'm sure everyone listening is an employee of some sort, 4001, or you can WhatsApp me 04871 5500. News now.
Your ARN News.
I'm Serena Kelly.
Here on Starting Up on Dubai Eye 103.8. We are having a fantastic conversation here, talking about how you take care of your people. So for all the business owners and bosses out there, you might want to take a page out of our guest's book. We've got three fantastic people in the studio. Sebastian Bedu, he is the General Manager of International SOS. They have 11,000 staff. We've got Shane Phillips, he's the CEO of the Phillips Group. He is in charge of basically recruiting top CEO and board members. And then we've got Adel Ghazzawi, who is the co-owner of Cove Beach over various different businesses. Adel says he's got 20,000 staff. So a lot of employers in the room. I've also got my co-host, Paul Bryson, the Managing Director of Virtuzone. Paul, lovely to have you with us.
Yeah, good to have you back as well.
Thank you very much
we're enjoying it. We're easing into the weekend here on a Friday morning. And we're talking non-stop when the mics are off. So let's bring that conversation back into the room. We were saying, what does it for people? Is it money? Okay, is it money or is it something else? And maybe that's something we can start
money.
with.
Money.
Well, I think it was money 20 years ago. We're in a different place. I think we're going to hear loads of different answers. For me, I can say from our standpoint, it starts with money, but once you're there, it's okay, I'm enjoying this, but what's next? Sometimes they're thinking about career development, professional qualifications, time with their kids. We were saying that, right?
Money.
You know that dads were, no, it's not always the money. it's the money when it's well known in the world, right? Money's your biggest problem when you don't have money. Once you've got money, something else becomes the okay? Shane, what do you think does it for people? Is it money?
Well, I think this is a misunderstood piece that when people leave, managers will also say, "Oh, he left because of more money," and they just don't have the guts to say, "Yeah, we weren't doing our job as leaders," And when you're working for someone, and you saw a major shift, for example, in the early 2000s, where people stopped wanting to work for Goldman Sachs and J.P. Morgan, and they wanted to start working for Google and Yahoo. And so, was this about money? Was it just that Google's paying more? No, it's about identity. They're saying, "Hey, we are not." All of a sudden, the identity of a banker really deteriorated. I don't know why we're going after bankers today. I promise I'm not going to mention anything else about them. But they're really saying, who am I? Who do I want to become? And if I'm going to follow Sebastian, I say the person that I want to become I will achieve that faster by following him. And so there's certain values that I want to espouse. Maybe as a man, I want to be more courageous. I want to be more insightful. And for him as a leader, I say, oh, well, he has those values to a greater extent. So I'm going to follow him and become that person that I want to become. And this whole idea of identity and leadership is lost. There's very few people who realize their job as a leader is to give and transcend that sense of identity to the group. And of course, now you see organizations with low levels of integrity, low levels of community involvement, low levels of social purpose, and all of these things. And then they say, oh, well, the Gen Z is not very loyal. They jump around a lot. Well, it's just because
now... Is that
now,
my voice that you're doing from earlier when I was telling you how much I didn't like Gen Z?
If I was using your voice, no one would understand what I'm saying because you have a Scottish accent. But the thing is that now what's happened is it's so much more visible. So Sebastian could identify me without knowing who I am, never being interested. Like, oh, hey, you're Shane. He knows. I know he's in security, so he knows a whole bunch of stuff about us all, right? So it's this visibility of what is your organization doing? Are they a high integrity organization? What is the identity of that organization? It's much more visible than it was in the 90s. So, and that's why you're seeing a lot more job change and people who are very quickly able to walk away. And managers don't want to get up and say, oh, you know what? The person didn't leave for more money. They said, hey, I don't agree with what your values are. I don't agree with what your identity is. I don't want to be that person. I'm moving across the street.
Shane, is it money?
Sebastian,
is it money?
I'm Shane.
This is what I mean. It's so fast moving, this conversation. It's brilliant.
You either earn or you learn. Ideally, you do both. And I trust that investing in the learning of our people is what keeps them inside the structure. Setting a clear set of values around respect, care, well-being, self-development is paramount. And we were discussing offline, helping people with their blind spots is very important because you don't know what you don't know. And someone might think that they are very keen on becoming the next leader when actually people management is not their thing. And they would be much more happy by staying a senior individual contributor, we need subject matter experts. And I know you shared with us that you had someone in the team that is like this. So I trust that having the guts to have frank conversation with your team to really go deep and understand where they want to head to and what are their capabilities
I think
is
it's important,
extremely
right?
important.
Knowing what they want, knowing where they want to go, it retains them as well. And we do have people that just want to remain individual contributors. They don't necessarily want to be the next MD or the next group CEO. But likewise, we also see people who definitely want to go and do that as well. And we're happy with that. We're happy to help them. It's all about succession.
Do you know, it's so interesting to hear you say that, Sebastian, because I'm speaking as the employee in this conversation because I don't employ anyone. Because the truth of it is that for me, it actually isn't money. It is the learn, seeing a career path, seeing an opportunity for development. That is actually what is more important to me than a salary potentially.
Without knowing, we really have a critical role to play in the lives of the people we manage because we don't realize how much of an influence we have with their career and as a result with their lives. And I trust this is a duty for us to serve our people, especially if, like we said at the start of the show, they take care of the best interest of your clients. So it's our mission.
Adel.
We were talking about that before we go. Adel, we were talking about that offline there, right? How when you're 19 and 18 and you have a manager that you don't like, you think, oh, this guy's tough on me, he's horrible, I'm never going to be like that. And then all of a sudden, fast forward, you're 40 and you start using some of his traits and realize, do you know what, that guy was just trying to manage me. He had a job to do back then and I was young, I was a student, I didn't think any better. So you pick up the good things from these people, you know the bad things to avoid, and hopefully you make yourself the best manager you can be. Adel, money, is it about money or is it other things?
I think anyone that thinks it's not about money is missing the plot. Money's critical, but I think a lot, especially in the industry that I'm in this particular industry, people just want to be recognized. People want to be heard. People want to feel like at the most basic level, know their name. Honestly, like in the hospitality industry, you have the manager, but you have the bar back, you have the runner. That guy wants to know that you know his name. And so, like, I've had so many examples of people that want to, like, they get offered more money and they come to me and I'm like, look, that's a big organization. I think you're just going to be a number. You're not going to be a name. Here you're a name. And so they go and, like, a week later, 10 days later, they call me back and they're like, Adel, I can't do this. Can you take me back? And I'm like, let's go. And so I think it's really, I think in my industry, like, it's about making these guys feel like they can be selfish. Like, for example, I have so many celebrities that come to my venues, right? So many celebrities. And I tell all my staff, if any of the celebrities come to my place, LeBron James, Travis Scott, all these guys, I'm like, be selfish. Come to me. I will take you to him. You will take your picture. He will know who you are. Like that, just that little thing makes this guy go home or this girl go home and be like, you know what? I'm where I need to be. Like, I just hired a new GM, and it was so amazing for me because he just told me the other day, he said, I went home. When you hired me, I went home, and I said to my wife, I am where I need to be because it's inside of you. That it's how you feel. And I just want to make sure everyone that works for us feel like they want to work for us.
Absolutely fascinating answer there. And I also find it very interesting that I think probably, Adel, out of all of the people in the room, you actually work with quite a lot of the Gen Z, the younger generation. I want to dive into that generational difference next. I'm just going to give you the traffic news and then we're going to dive back into that conversation in just a minute. This is Starting Up. We are talking about how you take care of your people. How do you keep your employees happy? Get in touch, join the conversation, 04871 5500.
Dubai Eye 103.8 traffic.
Sponsored by Yas Island Abu Dhabi. Stay at iconic hotels and play at record-breaking theme parks. Book now on yasisland.com.
Okay, I'm afraid we've got an accident on the E44, the Al Khail, as you're heading towards Dubai Design District. It is always sticky around there, and I'm afraid it's going to get worse because there's not one but two accidents. Other than that, well, it's not looking too bad, actually. It's that quiet stage of the day. If you see anything different, get in touch, 4001, or of course, course, you can WhatsApp me 04871 5500.
This is Dubai Eye 103.8.
Yeah, up next, we're going to be returning to that conversation. Is it money or is it culture? How do you keep your employees happy? I'd love to hear from you. What would you prefer? Would you like to learn or would you like to earn?
Dubai Eye 103.8's Weather Check.
Sponsored by Air Arabia. 103.8.
Right, busy this morning. Yes, welcome to your next programme on Dubai Eye 103.8. This is The Agenda. We are on every single weekday. Pleasure to keep you company all the way through until 1 p.m. today. I'm Georgia Tolley and we do news, analysis and comment. And we know that the UAE ranks among the world's safest countries. 9 out of 10 people feel secure walking alone at night. But how do we achieve those safety levels? Well, local criminologist and policing expert Dr. Paige Kenningale from the Rabdan Academy in Abu Dhabi is going to join us shortly. But I'd love to give your views on this as well. What is it about the UAE that makes it feel so safe? Get in touch, 4001 is your text line. Meanwhile, Dubai is launching a new testing zone for driverless taxis. Khaled Alawadi, Director of Transportation Systems at the RTA, will talk us through how it's all part of its plan to make 1 in 4 trips autonomous by 2030. Lots to get through. You've also got your news headlines now with Serena Kelly.
Your ARN News.
With Comera. Move money freely, fast and secure.
Boss.
Hey there, back on the programme. It is starting up with Virtuzone with me, Georgia Tolley. I've got my co-host Paul Bryson here. We've also got a fantastic panel of guests, Sebastian Bedu, Shane Phillips, Adel Ghazzawi. Amazing messages coming in as well. Thank you, Mazamil, who says, ego is the enemy. Many managers are operating from a model of insecurity and task completion. Goals are rarely aligned with the company bottom line. Thank you for this message as well, Anonymous. What makes me stay in my organisation? Well, they invest in me and they help me grow up and move up the career ladder. There's no micromanagement. There's a freedom to make decisions, recognising me and my values at work, and I'm decently paid. And I also have a sense of belonging. Paul,
Sounds like one of the Virtuzone stuff. Is it? Is it no names?
No name. But
Okay.
good on you, Paul, for that plug.
Gen Z.
Gen Z, let's talk about them.
And we only have a couple of minutes, right? So if we can bounce it around the room. Gen Zs, what are they looking for? Because that's a hot topic, in recruitment. Why don't we just go left to right, start with Adel?
I think Gen Z, on the experience level, they're not 100% there yet, so they don't really know what they want. So I think it's really a lot of stuff. They want money, they want growth, they want to feel like a sense of pride. They want to feel like, in my industry, that they're part of something fun. Like I said, we're in a music environment. There's music playing, celebrities in and out. I open a pop-up in Vegas. I take a bunch of my people to Vegas. So I think Gen Z are looking for the money, the fun, the recognition, and the pride.
I believe that by 2030, they'll represent 30% of the workforce. So they're a topic we cannot ignore. They expect authentic well-being support, respect, care, flexibility, as you mentioned offline. And probably the loyalty of the Gen Z will belong to the organizations that embody the mission, the purpose, the values, and deliver duty of care.
Of course, Shane, you actually you're hiring C-suite, so you're not really dealing with the Gen Z as much. But do you think your C-suite hires get that the sort of employment landscape is changing?
Well, yeah, I think they're challenged with the Gen Zs, and now it's the Alpha Gen. Gen Z is the old one, right? Now you have the Alpha Gens coming in.
Alpha Gen.
Who they want promotion much more quickly. They want to move faster. They're more interested in moving up than actually building capabilities. And I think strong careers, irrespective of what generation you are, is about building deep sector expertise and developing strong competitive capabilities over time. And I think that's being lost, especially now with AI and all of these different tools. People feel like, oh, I don't really need to have that depth. I just have to have a general idea of what's going on. It's fine. And that's not really the case. If you want to be competitive in the global market, it takes deep expertise. And I think we're losing that across all sectors as we move forward.
Really interesting conversation. My goodness me, we could have done this for hours. hours and hours and
We could
hours
just
and
take another
hours
half hour off the agenda.
of my programme. No, we're not doing that,
That's
I'm afraid.
fine.
I'll get into terrible trouble. I've got sponsors who will get cross. They will get cross. But gentlemen, honestly, what a pleasure to have you all in the studio, sharing your ideas, sharing your insights and expertise, ultimately. It's been a huge privilege. Thank you very much indeed. You just heard the voice there of Shane Phillips, CEO of the Phillips Group, also Sebastian Bedu, who's the General Manager of International SOS. Adel Ghazzawi is the co-owner of Cove Beach, and of course my amazing co-host Paul Bryson, Managing Director of Virtuzone. Thank you very much indeed. It's been a riot. I won't be back next week. Tom Urquhart will be, and with that time we're going to have a masterclass on how to be your own boss. That is thanks to Starting Up with Virtuzone, only on Dubai Eye 103.8. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Dubai Eye 103.8.
Join the conversation.
Back to School, brought to you by Skipley, powered by Rackbank. Skip